G'day everyone, I am the man called Kemosabe, the man with the plan from the land down under, and this is my review of Brutus the Badass, written by... Down here in Australia we say arse, like the British. Ass sounds weird and put on when we say it, so you're stuck with arse for the rest of this review. The art is by Donal, but the writing credit is a bit murkier. Donal is listed as creator and Nassar Rabadi is listed as co-plotter. There was some contention about who actually wrote the story and some kind of schism between Donal and Nassar, but I can't keep up with the Comicsgate drama. That's a full-time job. Letters are by the hardest working man in Comicsgate, Eric Weathers, and the excellent colours are by Tio Gonzalez. No mention of an editor, however. I don't know if Comicsgate creators are using beta readers in place of editors, but there's no reason not to use both. Donal was posting a while ago about how artists don't need writers as much as writers need artists, and he's right about that. But then he was saying artists should write their own book, and that's a statement I can't get 100% behind. As usual, we'll look at the cover, then talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this comic. The book starts with a splash page of Brutus leaping at the reader before going on a 6-page chase scene where he apprehends a fleeing alien with chain whips embedded in his arms. It's clear from the talk of getting paid that Brutus is some kind of bounty hunter. The action here is really good, lots of nice kinetic movement and flow, each panel sliding into the next. The bladed chains puncture Brutus's chest, and while it causes him discomfort, he doesn't seem too slowed down by it. We can guess then that he has some sort of healing factor or immortality. Brutus and his unseen sidekick, Gideon, take off to get paid, and a mohawked dominatrix arrives at the aftermath of the chase. She is tracking Brutus for reasons unknown, but we can bet they won't be pleasant. The chain-armed alien is forced into a gladiator-style arena to fight against another warrior as Brutus returns home. The dominatrix continues to pursue Brutus, coming across a wanted poster for her quarry. She swears she will make him pay for what he has done to her. Brutus and Gideon, who's revealed to be a Herbie-like robot, sink some of their money into a respectable alcohol collection. While they drink their pay away, Gideon reminisces about how he was created, a process that involves having hillbilly dad knock up a sex bot and then marry the exile princess of Japan who is green and has 3 breasts. Gideon's flashback is interrupted when the dominatrix sends her gimp ninja to attack Brutus. The gimp is strangely effective against Brutus, who seems to rely more on strength than technique. This fight reminds me of the Marv vs. Kevin fight from Sin City, and has a similar end, with Brutus crushing the gimp's limbs, leaving him giggling and helpless. The dominatrix reveals some of her motivations for attacking Brutus, and it involves a case of mistaken identity, unrequited love, and a dead child. The dominatrix is no match for Brutus physically, but she wasn't really planning on winning the fight anyway. She was stalling until the authorities turned up and arrested Brutus, who, as we're reminded, also has a bounty out on him. Brutus is sent to a Guardians of the Galaxy-style mass future prison. While there, Gideon tries telling his story again to some prisoners and taunts Brutus that at least he knows his own origin story. Brutus's eyes glaze over and we see a flashback that shows the broad strokes of his story. He was grown or created by alien technology that was polluted by junk food, causing an explosion that, we suppose, only he survived. Brutus is interrupted by a prison riot that he takes part in, killing Cecil and saving him from further sexual assault, #MeToo. Brutus is hit with power dampeners and while being transferred to maximum security manages to escape, but takes a wrong door and ends up in freefall. The book ends with him healing from the impact, promising to break into the prison and rescue Gideon. This is a quality comic. It's well drawn, fun, colourful and genuinely funny in a few places. It's not too serious and has plenty of action and splash pages for Donal's art to shine. It is reminiscent of other hyper-violent, larger-than-life characters such as Lobo, Trencher, Sharky and this guy, a creation of Simon Bisley whose name I forget, but he had a few stories in Heavy Metal magazine back in the day, and this shows Brutus's pedigree and influences. Keith Giffen and Simon Bisley, most specifically in my opinion. The women are sexy, the guys are muscular and the action is bloody. The art has a sketchy, freehand aspect that makes everything look imperfect and alien. There are no 3D traced models here, everything is hand-drawn, giving it a shabby, lived-in feeling. There's almost some Futurama vibes here with the decor and colour. This book is chock full of Easter eggs, more than I've seen in any other CG book. Donal took time to jam dozens of CG and mainstream references into this comic, from Skyver City, to a bar called The Biz, to Gif's Bar, This Guy in Cuffs. You'll be constantly finding new characters and references with each read. The story is simple, which works in its favour, but it also means some critical elements are missing or played down. Specifically, who is Brutus? He has no real personality traits. We don't know his motivation for doing what he does. It's not a problem to have this stuff be revealed later, even much later on in the story, but there needs to be a hint at it early on, something to reassure readers that he has character traits and he has motivation. James Scott Bell in his Romeo series of novels hints early on at a great tragedy in the title character's past. The specifics aren't detailed until 4 books later, but we knew it was there. We knew it coloured his actions and that it motivated him. It affected his code of honour, his moral code. Even most mercenary characters have some sort of internal code they follow. Deathstroke won't kill kids. Mirrormaster's loyalty is to the orphanage that he grew up in, even over the other rogues. Brutus has no real personality. He has things that he does, ways that he talks, but violence itself isn't a personality trait. Brutus is a very shallow character, in the vein of Lobo, without his many years of stories to flesh him out. I didn't find Brutus particularly likeable. I was rooting for him by virtue of him being the title character and for lack of anyone else, but it's not unheard of for a secondary character to become as popular or even more popular than the main character at times. It's possible Brutus is a kind of default macho tough guy to allow readers to self-insert, but I'd rather see something more concrete and help me understand who this guy is. Even a single scenario where he has to make a tough choice would help the reader to see what kind of man Brutus is besides strong and tough. I feel like in wanting to create a character in the vein of Lobo and similar, Donal has created only that, a character whose sole claim to fame at this writing is his similarity to that archetype. The story is pretty straightforward and relies on a lot of sci-fi and even Wild West conventions. If you're a fan of anything bounty hunter related, this might be a very familiar setup to you. If anything, despite a few quirks, the story might be too familiar, not really bringing anything new to the table. The book feels like it's missing that one final ingredient, that one aspect or element that makes it truly memorable, something to elevate Brutus to iconic status. As it stands, Brutus is a shadow, a shade of those who came before. I often point to Taken as a great example of a piece of media that builds a character's identity scene by scene. The unassuming, even shy and awkward father we see at the start surely can't be the merciless killer who tortures innocent people to realise his goals, but by the time we get to that point in the movie, his actions are eminently believable. Right now, Brutus is just a big tough guy who fights and drinks. That's Lobo, that's Sharky, that's Trencher, that's a tall Wolverine. Some sort of big reveal or a hitherto unknown fact or element could change all that and reframe the character in the reader's eyes. All of this might be expanded upon in future issues, and if Brutus wants to be remembered as something more than a Lobo XP, it will have to be. Some people might think I am looking too deeply into what is essentially a beer and popcorn comic. If the justification for the book is, just turn off your brain, bro, then I have to ask what brings readers back for issue 2. This is the failing of the crowdfunding model in that we don't have access to comic book stores. If Brutus was on the shelf of my local comic book store for say $6 or $7 an issue, I could see myself buying the whole mini-series. It'd come to maybe $40. A physical copy of this book, this one issue, would cost me in excess of that. None of this is Donal Delay's fault, of course, just something to note. The price on the digital editions is very fair for what you get, $8 US, and the art is well worth the price of admission. I'll be back to see Brutus the Badass through to the end, waiting to see that one scene, that one element that takes the character from cool to heroic.